Morning.
Yo, just a quick update. I'm moving to a bi-weekly upload schedule in March. That way I'm not stressing out over deadlines and have less mistakes in videos. Okay, take it away, past dem. Project Zomboid, one of the greatest survival games on Steam. For the new players, they call it the most stressful sim in their life.
Metalworking until we are. Huh? I hear this character screaming. How did she die?
The veteran players, they like to call it The Sims Zombie Edition.
We have a problem.
What?
Here on the ground there is a lot of food, I think. And I forgot to take food out of my set.
Oh, did it go bad?
8 slices of pizza are rotten, and the burgers rotten, the fries are rotten.
Oh no. Well, it looks like it's gonna be complex. As for me, I like to call it the Goblin Looter Simulator with zombies. Wait, loot? Loot? Loot! Sorry about that. Didn't know what came over me. No worries. Moving on. For this video, I want to explore my least spawned in town in Knox County, West Point. It's the closest vanilla town in Louisville? Louisville? Ah, I'm not from the south, so I wouldn't know what to call it anyways. I usually avoid spawning in there because of my bad luck of dying within the first week of there. The zombie density over there is dummy thick. So I couldn't sneak around the board. I'm gonna spawn in at the 3 houses north of West Point to give myself a fighting chance. I got a long mods list to spice up the game for me, including an expansion to the West Point map called Salt Ridge. Okay, with that explained, let's get started with the character.
Okay, let's go.
For the occupation, I went with security guard for 2 things: the slower accumulation of fatigue and alertness, just in case a zombie bangs on the sleeping area. Fatigue is the #1 burden for both real life and in game, so reducing it any way can accumulate is good for me. This is modded Zomboid, so a lot of traits are added courtesy of the more traits and more simple traits mods. So thanks to those developers on the Steam Workshop. Diving into the negative traits pool, I went with a lot that would incapacitate my character for at least the first week. Traits like unfit, weak, underweight will make it more difficult to carry supplies, fight, and escape the hordes. Broken leg and injured will make it so I have to limp everywhere until it's healed, which usually takes within the first in-game week for the leg, and depending on the injuries, might take like a couple days, unless I get unlucky and get burnt on my groin or leg. Clumsy, since I already have a broken leg and I can't run. Fear of blood, panic attacks, cowardly, palubophobia, and homocophobia. One meaning the fear of rain, the latter meaning the fear of the fog. And claustrophobia, which all of those combined will make it so my attacks are less effective because I'm always at the maximum panic, and it will be harder to sleep in safe areas like in houses or in cars. Pacifists and anti-gun activists will make leveling up my combat skills more time consuming and less efficient. Slow healer, prone to illness, and weak stomach will make it so when I do something to damage my health, the punishment will be more severe, maybe even game ending. Deprived and unlucky will make it so looting is more of a priority, since I won't start with anything, and the chance of unique spawn items such as guns or a sledgehammer less likely. Smoker is an easy gimme as it stacks well with the previous panic related traits. Short-sighted since it doesn't have a detrimental effect on the cone of vision. Slow reader, another easy gimme since I can just fast forward through the day. Finally, Lark and Sleepyhead. I can afford those traits since I already have the extended awake hours, so reducing it by a little doesn't affect me that much. Now for the equally big positive traits: speed demon and expert driver for making driving faster and zombie smashing fun. Cat eye so I can see and you guys can see the video. Dexterous and fast worker for faster looting, faster crafting, faster everything. Lead foot since it's probably gonna be my main way of killing zombies until I find a good weapon. Optimist to balance out the sadness and anxiousness I'm gonna be facing and constantly having. Outdoorsman so I don't catch the flu. Quick rest so I can recover my endurance anywhere just by sitting. Vagabond so I have more options for food, like a hobo. Well fitted so I can move faster with encumbering armor such as SWAT gear or firefireman gear. Scrounger, grave robber, and antique collector for more and unique loot. Faster learner to get them skills up. Keen hearing for the better zombie detection. Organized and packed meal for better storage capacity. Restful sleeper to reduce the hours I do need to sleep. Lastly, unwavering, thick-skinned, and evasive to escape those deadly zombie chompers. Now with character stats done, it was time for the cosmetics. I'm not particularly picky about the looks. I just want to go with a name that has alliteration like Alvin Alley, Bob the Builder, and I also like to switch between the genders for each playthrough. My last playthrough was with John Wheeler, if you saw that series. For this playthrough, I'm gonna go with a female. Christine Coate? Choate? I think it's Choate. What does Google say?
Choate.
Oh, Choate. Okay. Also, I went with bald because I like to see the hair growth in my characters. It's a marker for how long they survive, and that little symbol of progress is fun to see. Boom. Now with character creation done, it's time to dive into the world.
Alright, time to min-max. I crouched down so Christine can move faster with her broken leg. It's faster than a limp, so I am showing my knowledge of veteran status here. You go straight into the house to turn on the TV and watch the Life and Lynn to get the free skill experience.
Sticking out your gap for the Rizzler. You're so skibbity. You're so Phantom Tax. I just wanna be your Sigma.
Next, I gotta explore the kitchen to find a persona of food. I gotta consume my essential nutrients, only to see the previous inheritance money upstairs. I gave the undead nunners a test their own medicine. Before taking their clothes and throwing it up the window, I tell them who's boss.
Ugh. Damn, sorry about that. Nerd in my throat. Anyways, I go back to cooking. It was noon, so I came over to the TV in the living room and watched some man banging his wood for XP. Finally, I changed my bandage with some clean rags and went to check out the other two houses.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Oh God, it's so good.
Yeah, boy.
Come along. Chinese females more like stiff fine, right? Chicken ball stiff fine, right? Shake that way.
I didn't find anything unique or interesting in other houses, only freaking zombies. Exhausted, panicked, weepy, anxious, in pain, over encumbered, and a little bloodthirsty. It was nearly time for life and living. Nothing like some free XP and some chicken and rice to cheer me up. I washed up at the nearby lake. But for cleaning up my starting house, that is gonna be my main base. By the time I was done, it was dark out, so I slept outside because I didn't have any sleeping pills or alcohol to reduce my panic indoors. Welcome back to the West Point Expansion. Let's get back straight into it. It was 6 a.m. so the cooking show was still on. Whilst I still had Christine watching how to make chicken soup or whatever, I was looking at the crafting recipes that use scrapped metal, courtesy of the Craft Helper mod, thanks to the developer for this one. Looking over the recipes, I was reminded of the Tactical Backpacks mod that I had installed. It provided a crafting recipe to a spacious backpack that I would surely need. It would be on the list of items that I needed to scavenge. After moving the TV to the kitchen for reasons that I cannot remember, I set up for the city, West Point. Equipped with a wooden spear with a spoon attached to the end, I call it the Speen. Also with a hammer and a screwdriver in my belt, I was ready to conquer Knox County. I'd walk crouched through the foggy trail at 2x speed. Didn't find much except a car wreck. I go to mark it on my map later only to find out that I forgot to bring a writing utensil. Oh well, back to being a sneaky beaky through the foggy woggies. Eventually I came across a barn with a shed and a few Zeds. Nothing my speen and foot couldn't handle. They had some goods. A lollipop and a black digital watch. Also, a pair of scissors which was put to good use to rip up their clothes. It would make for a good tailoring material for my backpack I mentioned earlier. The barn only had furniture. The shed on the other hand had a screwdriver and tire. I took the screwdriver and left. I saw a house and what looked to be another shed next to it, so I went for it. That's until I spotted a zombie with a backpack. It was a school bag. Not the best of bags, but better than nothing on my back. I took his kicks cause they're flyer than mine, and I went over to kill his buddy to rip up his shoes. I checked the shed only to find nothing worthwhile. When they came out, there was a small horde expertly hiding behind a tree. Guess that the clap of my ass cheeks alerted them. So I took my stomach growling, my panicking, my depressed, anxious, in pain looking ass over to the nearby fence to cheese them. Gave them a good old pokey with my speen. Don't know how the logic works. Maybe I scooped out their brains through their eyeballs or something? Gross thought. Anyways, the house behind me had an undead party going inside with cake, party hats, and the whole shebang. I try to open the window before they break it to avoid alerting the guards. Too late. One crawled out whilst the other wanted to practice his moonwalking.
Oh shit, Mikey Jackson!
Gave them all a good stomping. Out of that horde, I ripped up their shoes and made a bag out of it. Poggers. I took their party snacks and jewelry before I cleaned out the broken glass and hopped inside. Being the party pooper I am, I took their kitchenware, killed the last of the party goers, and took everything else in the house. While I was cleaning up the dirty rags, I noticed that the water shut off. This was incredibly unlucky for day 2. Thankfully, my base is next to a lake, so I wasn't too fussed about it. I went over to push my luck with the neighbor's house. I found the owner of the house dead next to a bottle of bleach. The undead neighbor saw me through the window and broke through. He wanted to greet me, in which I replied with a foot through his head. I loot the house and used the kitchen to make some good-ass pasta. And watch some life and living. Don't know why, but I continued to loot despite my bad noodles. Perhaps it was the depression, the bloodthirst, or it was just some really good pasta in my stomach. Who knows? But after I looted the third house, I just walked out into the open field to kill some zombies. After that, I went into a fourth house, looted it, changed my bandages, read some magazines that I found earlier, covered the windows and doors with sheets, then used an exploit in the game to sleep, in which I stayed outside until my panic was gone, clicked on the sleeping spot, and let my character walk over. I timed pressing E perfectly, so the door closed right behind me. I wake up at 6 a.m. so that I can watch the cooking show, only to realize the house doesn't have a TV. Instead, I go outside and find a small horde, so I give them some pokies and stompies. I run through the rain to the previous house to catch the show, and to my surprise, it was still on. After learning to make a salad, I go over to investigate the church next door and clear the cemetery. There was a storage truck and a military gasoline truck parked out front. Lucky me. The key was still inside the truck, but no gas. Some tools in the trunk too. The small horde out front scared me, so I decided to skip looking through the gas truck. Nothing much inside the church except some crayons and a mug. Broke into the fifth house. Aside from the usual stuff, I did find a fanny pack. A great place to store my small tools in. I also remembered that I have crayons, so I marked off the locations I've been to on my map. Killed a park ranger and his buddy whilst going to the sixth house. I also alerted another small horde. My weapon broke, so I panic ran away to repair it during the fight, and finish the rest off. As I break into the house, the alarm goes off. I go to escape through the trees only to find the goddamn neighbors on the other side. I lose them by going through the previous house only to find another small group waiting for me outside. I lose that group through the church. I kill some stragglers and decide to go to a house on the map that I didn't mark off. RNG Jesus decided that I had enough looting for today, but I decided just to be quick about it and take what little that was there. But after a cursory look outside, there were no zombies coming, so I decided to watch some life and living. Someone outside wanted in, so I let him, before bashing her brains in with my foot. Another at the door too, so I gave her a welcoming poke. A third stood outside the window, so I decided to open up and give him another good old poke. A fourth saw the open window and decided to climb through. He had some goodies after I killed him, so that was welcomed at least. I made my way back home, killing any in my way, power crouching through the rain at 2 times speed. Home sweet home. First thing I did was turn on the TV and watch some Life and Living, whilst ripping up some clothes. By the time I was done, it was sunset. Too late to go on another scavenging run, so I decided to clean up. I find out that the back gate is locked, but there's also a small dock with a boat on the river. Might be useful. I spent the rest of the night / early morning organizing loot that I got in my pack, tossing the extra clothes outside in the rain in hopes that I would wash off the rot and blood, placing down the barbecue grill, and going to sleep. My alarm goes off and wakes me up at 6 a.m. again, so I watch some lady with her nudes. Anyways, I store another TV in the cabinet for no particular reason. I cook some chicken and beef, change my dirty bandage, and try to organize the chaos that is my home. With the plumbing gun, I took any containers capable of holding liquid to the lake and filled them up. I still had power, so I could still sterilize them easily at a stove or microwave. After watching some woodcraft, I see my fence climbing is abysmal. Seeing how awful that was, I just decided to level up my tailoring by ripping up some soggy clothes.
Gotta go fast. Gotta go fast. Gotta go fast, too fast.
You know what I do want to do? You know what I want to do really fucking badly?
After watching some Life and Living, I decide to embrace the Bass Pro Bro shop in me. I catch more shoes than things I can actually eat. I give up at midnight and just slept outside to forget my failure. I wake up weirdly earlier than normal, so I just cooked the little fishy I caught last night while I clean more rags. I munch down on some fish and chips while watching the cooking show. It was the BLT episode. I also used some junk and rags that I just had laying around to make one of those tactical bags. Neat. They have loads of volume, so I take everything and pack it into there just to tidy up the floor a little. I take care of most of my moodles, do some last minute checks, and head out for another loot run. I went to check out on the little house with the spiffle van the other day. I saw that a few zombies had gathered just outside in the tree line. Nothing my spear couldn't handle. I took their clothes and ripped them up while I waited for the new episode of Woodcraft. I tipped the corpse $2 as I left, only to be greeted by another undead welcoming community. Nothing a good old / poke couldn't handle. And just like that, I was back to where I left off when I was looting the other day. And by the time I was there, my favorite show was broadcasting. I moved the TV into the bedroom and watched it with a naked corpse under the bed. I was already exhausted and fatigued, so after doing an audit of my inventory and repairing my spear, I shacked up in the church and had Jesus protect me while I was sleeping. After the morning ritual of caving in some skulls with my foot, it was time to return to the looting sim. The house I was just at yesterday had this really snazzy sports car. I poured what little gas I had and took that baby for a spin. With the car now, my exploration options were way more open. I wouldn't have to struggle crouch walking everywhere with my broken leg. So first things first, I drive deeper into West Point. I drive past the school and immediately notice a police roadblock. It was right next to a sizable horde too. I thought it would be a good idea to look through the glove box and turn on the siren. Before driving deeper into West Point, I parked just outside of the house to go inside and watch some Life and Living because I'm just full of good ideas. After learning how to bake a pie, I raid the house of its goodies, including the car wreck out front. The neighbors came out to greet me as I fill up my car with gas. I kill them and decide to loot the house across the street. As I drive away, I decide to loot the school. However, the horde was dispersed because the siren turned off. Using the stuff I got from the previous houses and cars I looted, I made a Molotov and started gathering the horde into one largely packed group. The horde was mostly distracted with the siren, however, quite a few were still hungry for me, so I had to kill a few stragglers. Then I had to wait a bit before circling around to a different side of the school. I placed on a TV I stole from my house earlier to see if I could catch an episode of Life and Livin', but it was too late. But it was not too late for the quest of knowledge. I loot the classrooms, I loot the hallways, and I clear out the undead students and faculty. I found a bunch of good stuff too. Books, magazines, maps, school bags, bottles, candy, even a water cooler. I was a kid in a candy store. But for knowledge, the library was a treasure trove. With enough stuff, I could stay home and read up until my wounds were healed. An easy 2-for-1. I took what I could carry and GTOF with my car. I was tired, hungry, depressed, anxious, and overburdened with stuff. As I was leaving, I noticed a house boarded up with windows. A survivor house. Pog. As I was passing the barn, I decided to pick up the fuel barrels, the crates, and the shelves, since I was passing by anyway. I had the car, so no harm in carrying more stuff. However, the engine did alert one guy. A bit of sketchy rope-a-doping, but I managed while hauling the furniture. I almost crashed into the wreck next to my base. So to prevent future damage to my car, I mark it on my map so I can see it coming on my mini-map. I park my new car in the driveway and start furnishing my base with the new stuff. I didn't sleep that night as I spent all of early morning just organizing all that new stuff I had. But first, I had to watch the new episode of The Cooking Show while reading a book to capitalize on those XP gains. Then I went to the neighbor's house to take their furniture. I was gonna need more places to put stuff anyways. I spent all morning organizing the bags, books, and other buff stuff, whatever. Then at midday I heard a siren going off. I go outside to investigate, but nothing came of it. But I did notice how bloody and dirty my clothes were. I went over to the lake to get a quick rinse. The rest of the day was uneventful as I was sorting through the stuff, reading books, and watching the Life and Livin' shows when I could. When it was getting to the early morning hours of the next day, I went over to my new car and slept inside. A bit safer, and surprisingly comfier than the chair on the porch. The next morning I catch my second to last show before grabbing a bite to eat and heading out for another loot run. I decided to drive down the trail a bit and found nothing aside from a burnt out truck in the tree line for some reason. With curiosity in mind, I decided to go deeper into West Point. I had a pretty fast car, so no reason to see what the rest of the town looked like. Unfortunately, I had to step away from my computer for a moment and forgot to resume my recording, but it wasn't completely lost. I had invaded most of the hordes as I made my way into a cul-de-sac of townhouses. I stopped there because I noticed some exercise equipment inside one of the buildings. I had the working treadmill mod, so while power was still on, that would be a good opportunity to grab one for my base. The storage closet had an axe and flashlight, but other than that, the loot was no good. I also took a washer and dryer, don't ask why. I probably just forgot that I had one at home. Anyways, as I was heading back home, I decided to push my luck again as I was passing the school. I had the unquenchable thirst for knowledge, so I parked in the courtyard and headed to the second story. More books, magazines, and candy, but nothing too interesting. I left with my car and had an interesting bounce off with the fence. Looking back at the recording, I couldn't tell you why I didn't just go straight home. Maybe I was just so infatuated with the modded expansion, or I had a death wish. My eye caught the freezer just outside a gas station, so I decided to take it by luring the horde a long way away just to pick it up. After some sketchy luring away, I was then satisfied to go home, but not before taking a look at that police roadblock again. Okay, now it was a speedy way back home. For a second time, I almost hit the car wreck next to my base, so I get the idea to tow it back to base. It would serve as a way to train my mechanics, and it wouldn't be blocking the way home. I place my beloved treadmill and go through another sorting fiesta with my glorious haul. Finally, I wash up at the lake and go take my sleepies cause I'm eepy. Christine now has survived 1 week, and it was the last day to catch Life and Livin' before the TV broadcast would go off air. Forever. After the Rabbit Stew episode, I became a whore for organization. You name it, books, food, bags, clothes, anything and everything I saw was getting sorted. Finally, with that out of the way, it was time.
Wow, I am creative when it comes to destroying things.
Hey, welcome back to my Project Zomboid series on the town of West Point. Plus, most beginner players often die within the first week. We're on week 3. I'm doing a fine job surviving for this long. Here's an overview of Christine's skills. As you can see, she's been through a lot. Also, the starting injuries and broken leg have now healed, meaning no movement penalties and no combat penalties for her either. Now with that addressed, it was time to gear up and head out. There were a few things I wanted. In a list of them from highest priority to least, bigger and sturdier cars for gathering more loot so I don't have to make return trips as often. A generator and gas to store in barrels. More books and magazines to unlock more useful recipes and upgrade my skills faster. Also, I have a good amount of non-perishable food stored away in the kitchen cabinets. More alternative ways to generate food such as farming, trapping, or fishing before winter will come in handy. I went over to the spiffle van I found earlier. I didn't have the key, nor had the skill to hotwire. It was the closest vehicle to my base, so I put some fuel in it for later. Next, I ran with the goal of reaching the church so I could take the truck. I immediately noticed that the hordes have migrated close to the homes I looted, so I had to keep my eyes open and my weapon sharp. Other than a handful of Zeds, it was easy reaching the church. I stealthily poured in some gas, hopped in the truck, turned the key in the ignition, and drive deeper into West Point. Back in the suburbs surrounding the school, I started clearing out and scavenging the nearby homes and what's left of the school for supplies. Nothing I immediately needed, but the more food and the assortments of electronics and clothes were good. I forgot that I was looting during the late hours of the day, so I had to find somewhere to sleep. I did some quick surveying, killed any unwanted biters, and broke into a home. I pulled off the sleeping exploit of waiting outside until my panic was gone. Hastily walk inside and pick somewhere to sleep before my panic rises up. Quick tip for you guys. If you have the claustrophobia trait, it will naturally decay the longer your character survives. The next day, I eat my perishables and continue my loot run. More houses and killing more Zeds. However, I noticed an increase of weapons stuck to them. If you didn't know, after the first week, zombies will appear with a range of different weapons attached to them. After the first month, the really good weapons will appear on them. Really just depends on your luck. I break into a little store next to the school. Thanks to Braven for this much needed mod. The crowbar should be able to pry open doors and windows in vanilla Zomboid. I found nothing special, only food on the shelves, but I did notice the back door had been torn apart. I take a little ciggy break in the truck, then drive further into the heart of West Point. Now I was at the edge of the business district of West Point. I stopped after noticing a vehicle with a siren. It was the Ectomobile. It was from the 59 Cadillac Miller Meteor mod by KI5. I quit my spear as I saw an approaching horde and stuck it to him. Seeing how more would just end up coming, I just had a fuck it moment and went for the Ecto. I was lucky to have the door unlocked and the key in the glove box, though not necessary to turn on the siren. I booked it for the truck and GTFO'd before I got surrounded. As I was circling around, I noticed a construction scene with a sledgehammer. I'd have to pick it up another time. Anyways, the siren shut off and the hordes were going to disperse. So I pull up to the gas station and I had to attend to something away from my computer and completely forgot to hit the record button again. But trust me, what happened was plain epic. There was the evading of hordes by hiding behind buildings or trees, stealth killing isolated Zeds, gathering fuel at the pump, and making a quick getaway. I'm still looting, but now back in the suburbs. I come across a small gathering of Zeds in the house and decide to bash their brains in with a bat. There was a good amount of books inside, so more satisfying knowledge for me. As I move on to the next door house, I find a generator in the shed. It was house after house after house. Food, clothes, electronics, and meds. I just filled my truck up with stuff after stuff. Thanks to some beta blockers, I slept in one of the many homes I looted.
Pills here!
It was a foggy morning and I went out to crack some skulls with my baseball bat. I was making my way up to the boarded up house I saw the other night. Those places were to be treasured. Survivor weapons, ranging from guns to crafted weapons, and military gear, especially anything from the British weapons pack. The gun selection is deliciously vast. The houses are usually packed with the undead too, but thanks to Christine's strength of 5 and fitness 10, it was gonna be easy killing them. Here's the interesting stuff I found. A kukri machete, a light machine gun with ammo, a baton and metal pipe, and a spiked baseball bat. Overall, not bad. It's better than nothing. While I had a moment of peace, I started marking off locations I've been to on my map. It was rather satisfying seeing the map and the progress being made. It was almost midday, so I still had time to find more stuff to future-proof my base. In one of the garages, I found a welding mask. This was going to be super useful for metalworking. In another garage, I found another generator. Now that I had 2, I could have one at the gas station and one at my base for when the power goes out. And wouldn't you believe it, but I found a 3rd generator in another garage. The garages had tools, materials, and other items that were going to prove useful later. During my plundering of garages, I was in the backyard of a home and I found a propane grill. While it'd be useful for cooking when the power goes out, I was more interested in the propane itself. Hey, bada, swing! It was getting late, so it was time to pack it up and head back to base. When I arrived back home, I realized I had the RV interior, motorist zone, and special emergency interior mods. Thank you to the mod devs for these. I go to the back and enter the truck and saw the interior. This gave me a brain blast. I was gonna add more storage to the interior. More loot for the loot goblin. Sorry about that. Moving on. I tow the wrecked car out of the way to make room for any bigger vehicles I decide to bring here. With darkness approaching, it was time to wash up, stow away loot in proper receptacles, place down any furniture I had, head upstairs, take some beta blockers, and finally sleep in a comfy bed.
Wake up!
A new day. I checked my skills and it was time to go out again. This time on foot so I could come back with a new vehicle.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
I noticed that the Zeds are migrating further north, so I was a bit worried. But on the other hand, I had good weapons to grind out my combat XP. As I was culling the undead, a police chopper flew over. This was part of the expanded helicopters mod. Thanks to the dev team for such a great mod. This gave me a hypothesis on why the hordes were moving closer to my home. Helis were just flying over and the noise dragged the hordes in my direction. I rip up some undead clothes for some tailoring XP. Y'all gon' make me. And the spools of thread. Since my carpentry skill was low, I gathered the wooden crates and other storage receptacles. I deconstructed other furniture for experience. It was getting late into my loot run, so I get some snoozies. Cleaning the streets of the undead, I continue on my foot journey. When I was walking past the school, I searched through a van in the parking lot. In the glove box, I found a map of West Point, along with some other useful stuff. This would give me a clearer layout of the town, instead of relying on my memory. In addition to that, I remembered there were some flatbed trucks in the parking lot next to the school. They were a good balance of speed and storage capacity. The truck was unlocked. It had gun cases with guns, and the key was in the glove box. It was like Christmas in July. I fill her up, check my map, and continue on my loot adventure. I finally made it back to the gas station I had tried to gather fuel from. I clear out the undead nearby. Set up a generator for when the power will go out and pump fuel into my truck and gas cans. There was also another freezer in the building next to me, so I take that too. It would be more food storage for when winter comes. While I was here, I took a gander at the hardware store across the street. More food, furniture, books, and some farming supplies. A welcomed haul. Now time to head back, but not before I go to the elementary school for some knowledge. No books, only toys, food, and the undead. Unfortunate. Anyways, as I was mounting up, I decided to tow the wrecked car on the street to clear it out of the way and to bring it back to base. When I detoured onto the dirt road, I got slowed down heavily, so I had to abandon it in the field. When I arrived home, I put down the furniture I got, washed up, and slept in my armchair outside. July 31st was when the power grid went offline. I was prepared for this. I had generators, I had a flashlight, and other items to survive the long term. But for now, it was just time to sort out all the loot I had. Clothes, books, tools, medicine, food. It was a deliciously wonderful sight to see it all being packed and organized. My once empty and bare home was now becoming a supplied and cozy base. I built a compost bin in the backyard. Now I could gather and discard rotten food for compost. I went out to my barbecue setup to cook some perishables I had outside with the wood I gathered from looting garages. Food was gonna go bad now that the power was off, so fattening up with calories wouldn't be too bad of an idea. I also used the time to cover up the windows with sheets and board up with planks. I also add sheet ropes to the second story windows for added escape routes just in case. Darkness was fast approaching, so I check on the boat. I couldn't figure out how to enter it, so I just give up and sleep on the park bench.
Wake up, mommy.
Christine made it to a new month, August. A big achievement to survive this long, so the snackable is a nice reward. Inside, I decide to have Christine get comfortable and notice that she has hair now. It's been 1 month, so yeah, no more bald Christine. Anyways, I wanted to have Christine stay inside to read books and exercise. She had the endurance of a horse, but not the strength to pack a wallop. Oh yeah! Christine was a strong 10 out of 10 fitness and strength, pure Giga Stacy status. Now time to put on the drip. And do a Paul Bunyan by deforesting my home. I saw down the logs and used the planks to finish up boarding up my base. Quick tip for y'all, you can board both sides of the exterior and interior of a door or window. This means zombies will take longer to break through it. The rest of the day was spent dismantling extra electronics for XP and sorting loot.
Nice.
I wake up early in the morning and decide to fill up my fuel barrels. I pack it up and use my sports car to drive into town. At the gas station, I spent a while to fuel up the barrels. It would be nice if there was an automated process that I could just fast forward through. What should have been a quick in and out job turned into breaking in, gnome poaching, metalworking, and police car towing. When I arrive home, I move the cars around to clear space, deposit my loot, and do some rearranging of furniture. As it was getting darker, I decided to read some books and grind out my mechanics skill. I was already at electronics level 1, so I would try getting mechanics level 2. It was easy, especially with the auto mechanics mod. Big thanks. After grinding it out until the next morning, I sleep then eat before going out again. I go back to the school and continue deconstructing stuff from material and experience. I also decide to take the other police van with me. As I was looking over my inventory, I heard it.
Helicopter! Helicopter!
It was going guns a-blazing with all those gunshots I heard. Most likely it doesn't discriminate between the dead or living, so I stayed indoors to avoid getting a new breathing hole. I spent so long in the school that I ended up having to sleep on the cot in the nurse's office. I got too carried away with seeing those skills level up. The next day was more of the same. Destruction. I felt good getting a carpentry skill of 6 and a metalworking skill of 4. It was time to head home. It was a doozy, but I managed to drag a police van all the way back home. Also, my headlights were broken because of colliding with too many Zeds. Oopsie doopsie. What is up, my duders and dudettes? It's time to wake the fuck up, samurai. We got a West Point to conquer. Ha! You thought I was gonna say the same line again and have the N-word have an echo and reverb? Well, you thought wrong! Oh, god damn it. It's August 10th for Christine Choate. She has become the hardened survivor, as represented by her gains in skill. The Sigma grind never stops. She's been dismantling and putting together cars for that sweet, sweet experience. Once I have her achieve mechanics level 2 and electronics level 2 by dismantling whatever I could get my hands on, I decided to do some miscellaneous tasks. First was to go out to the field and retrieve that car wreck that I abandoned. It could serve me well as another car to train on, or to scrap for the metal. Of course, I had to bash in some skulls. So I could tow it without any interruptions. I hauled the junker with no problems, other than the growling in my stomach. I fixed it with some peanut butter cups and other candy, before I head out on foot.
Stay hard!
In the outskirts of West Point, I returned to the Spiffo van. I now have the minimum skill to hotwire and drive it to the gas station, but not before I whip out the Spanish toothpick and give those Zeds a taste of cold steel. As I was carving decayed flesh with my knife, I noticed a SWAT zombie. Now those guys, they had the best armor. To avoid ripping it apart, I whip out the mallet and show him my whack-a-mole skills. Also, this freak looked like he was dragged through a spike factory.
Freaky.
I get some new wheels and park it at the gas station, because why not? Backups are always good to have. I fill her up and head to the hardware store's loft to sleep through the incoming darkness. Wake the bunk up, Zomboid. We got a west to point. The next day was spent looking around the nearby buildings and slaying zombies. I returned to where I set off the echo siren and notice that the police station is nearby. I take the police car in the parking lot and bring it to the gas station. I had a few cars piled up here, just in case I need another whip to flex on them zombies. Speaking of, no matter how many I kill, another group would migrate in, and I just take care of business. Problem solved. Nothing to worry about. Anyways, I fuel up, tow up, and nut up. At my base, I add another police car to the collection of patrol vehicles. At this point, I could start my own precinct. I pop rocks with the G lock. Blow brains like Cobain. Wipe the floor like a Swiffer. You got that? Dementia? Ow. Moving on, I make my deposits of glorious loot.
Huh?
Oh, and I picked up some furniture from the store too. Just something to add more storage and lived-in space to the base. Honestly, I could just be a hoarder that practices good organization, so I don't end up on those reality TV shows. Speaking of being a filthy hoarder, I wash off all the blood, fleshy bits, and dirt at the river. I still haven't figured out how to get into a boat. Do you guys know? Comment below how, if you do. Unrelated, but if you guys know how to read road signs, could you explain that too?
Octagon.
I'm taking out the truck for good reason. I was gonna haul stuff from the police station and nearby businesses. First, I noticed the tank is a quarter full, so I was gonna gas it up. I park out back and get my weapons ready for the slaughter. The station was full of the undead, normally a frightening sight to see, but not for Christine. She caught them licks and crushed them faster than getting to the center of a Tootsie Pop. The boys in blue thought they could snack on her, but not today, biatch. There was also another SWAT officer inside the building. Unlike their real-life counterpart, I was happy to see that thick Kevlar, those bulky armored pads, and that big black bag. I just wanted to splatter his rotten brain matter across the floor with my mallet and take his clothes off. I picked through the dead to find some unread maps, a heart, and other junk I probably need. More importantly, the way to the armory was clear, so I bust in, take what I can carry, and load up on the truck. I also decided to rip up the zombie clothes to grind out my tailoring. After I come out of the bathroom, some undead brought me some extra weapons. How kind of them. I noticed that my fatigue is catching up, and the darkness was soon approaching, so I had to make do with one of the nearby homes as a sleeping spot. Delicious alcohol to help me sleep through my night terrors of being suffocated in small spaces.
I'm very claustrophobic!
Wake up, mommy.
Mommy? Mommy? Oh, fuck. Mommy? Nope. That's not what I meant to say. Mommy? 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 I go back to the truck and switch out my clothes for some SWAT drip. I then hop in the driver's seat and make my way to another weapon storage in West Point, the gun store next to Twiggy's. My truck was slow and the brain rot hadn't fully decayed the zombie's memory, so I had to deal with the sizable horde after arriving. I wasn't too worried. All I had to do was some juking and swing my trusty brain splatterer Mark 1 and my mallet. My weapon broke, but I always keep a spare. In the apocalypse, it's always good to have a backup for your backups. The dead was dealt with, so I break open that hoe and take a look-see with what I'm working with. I go to the back and find some couple prowling in the back room. Must be guarding the hard to find stuff. I found guns, ammo, attachments, and all sorts of stuff. Even the van parked outside was practicing their right to bear arms. This was almost enough for me to salute the flag and celebrate with the national anthem. Almost. I didn't get any explosives or ridiculously overpowered machine gun with an Americanly amount of ammunitions. Boo womp. I moved the van to an open field for reasons I don't remember. I also rip up the clothes of the dead, like a necrophiliac in the morgue for more tailoring XP. After a couple hours, my fatigue was building up again and the night was approaching, so I set up my sleeping bag in the gun store bathroom and catch some Z's. Wake up, Gunnerai. Okay, I'm done with that bit. Or am I? Yeah, I got nothing. A new day, so I get to killing and gathering. I hop into the bar and clear it out. Nothing much here, but disassembling the furniture would be great for metal and metalworking XP. Also, the bar was holding on to some knowledge? I don't really know why there's books here, but it's a welcome sight to loot. Moreover, the shelves themselves would look good in my base, so I take those too. I fill my truck up and decide to do cleanup around the area. I might as well grind out the combat experience while I'm still refreshed and agile. I'm goated with the sauce. So much I get lost in it. Another broken weapon. But I got so many, it's like napkins. I wipe the streets clean and toss them aside.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Time slips by and I spend another night in my baggie inside the gun store.
Baba Booey.
The next morning I investigate some containers and found some construction and farming supplies. Inside the neighboring building, I find out it's a mechanic's car repair shop. I could possibly find more tools, spare car parts, and furniture to add more feng shui to my base. Immediately after, a horde wanders inside. One of them was dressed as an elf. Strange for August in-game, or IRL, since by the time this video is out, it's probably 2024. Damn. As I was looting the corpses, the outside group broke down the garages and I just had to abandon the place since I got what I needed. No need to get too greedy. I head back to my truck and drive over to the nearby Gigamart because I saw a large truck in the loading bay. I decide to use it to tow my smaller truck and slide through the streets smooth, like butter. Remember that construction scene I had to abandon? Well, I found it again. I already had a sledgehammer, but another one couldn't hurt. A backup sledge sounds good to me. The cones were in the way too, so to not damage my engine or hood, I move them. Before I hopped in the truck, I wanted to clear out the dead and fuel up the barrels I collected from the car shop. The gas station was within walking distance, so I turned the Jenny on and painstakingly filled them up. As I was making my way back to base, I stopped by the school to gather more materials by disassembling stuff. The day became night, so I become eepy and take my sleepies in the nurse's office cot. I have my morning smoke.
Did you know 43% of all cigarettes contain male semen and or babies? You're smoking babies.
And continue my deconstruction destruction. Lockers, chairs, toilets. By the end of it, I was at level 5, almost level 6 metalworking, and the school was a pile of scrap metal. Nice. I make it back to base the next day and took the time to enjoy some remodeling. By the time I was done, it was early morning. I decided to enjoy some electricity by turning on the generator. Now I'm not in constant darkness. The fuel I collected in the barrels were plenty, so I wouldn't have to worry about it for a while. Thereafter, I moved the freezer and disassembled the fridge since there was no food to preserve right now. Next, I take my seed packs and shovel to start my vegetable garden. If I could get some bait for my traps and extra food before November, that would be awesome. If you didn't know, November is when the renewable sources of food, except farming, become unavailable. I've only had a few characters survive to the winter, so my knowledge could be outdated. Anyways, I dig furrows, sow seeds, and water my plants. If you're wondering why Christine's in her underwear, it's because she was sweating with all that gear on. I didn't want her to get too dehydrated and sick from overheating. I also noticed her hair is growing out more, so I have her tie it up. No mechanical advantage. It just looks better in my opinion. The watering was finished and I leave the empty buckets outside along with any other containers to collect rainwater. I then decide to make myself a fishing rod. It would be way better than spearfishing. I get better XP and food. The vegetables need some time, but I needed protein too. I would find my protein source in the river. I craft a simple rod, collect whatever bait I had lying around, and sleep until the next day. Early morning. I still had time before the peak fishing hours, so I put on my fisher drip. And I commenced one of the most masculine hobbies out there, fishing.
Hello, welcome to Femboy Fishing Episode 1.
My results were way better as I get some crappies, pikes, and bass. Better than the shoes I caught last time. In the kitchen, I prepare my fillets by slicing up my fishies. I cook them up in the oven, and once they're hot and ready, I munch down.
So good and tasty.
The rest I put in the freezer. With my hunger satiated, I decide to continue my Sigma mechanic skill grind. Once I took apart and pieced together the junkers, they ran out of their usefulness XP wise. I took my propane torch and turned them into scrap metal. I clean up and siphon the gas out of the drivable cars, just in case I want to scrap them next. Next up was some reorganization in my garage. I had this big metal crate. It can fit a bunch of stuff, so I decided to make use of it. It did lag transferring large amounts of stuff, which was annoying. The whole process took a couple days. By now, I think I was most likely prepared for the long term. With that done, I put on my badass SWAT armor. Had a nap in my truck, and decided to put some boxes in the spiffle van for more storage capacity. Then it was time to drive back into town for more scavenging. I fuel up at that gas station after I clear out the nearby horde. Then I had an idea. Corpses produce maggots as they decay. Maggots can be used as fishing bait. Zombies were a source of food. Now I can kill Zeds and get food out of it. I start picking up the fresh bodies and dumping them in the interior of the spiffle van. Normally I'd be worried about getting corpse sickness in a closed space like this, but with a gas mask, I should be totally fine. This was perfect for food, combat XP, and tailoring XP. A 3-for-1 bargain. Nice. Driving on to go deeper in the business district of West Point. I wanted to see more interesting stuff and cut down on the larger hordes. Next to the police station was the bank. Usually I wouldn't bother with a location like this, but it was a potential loot spawn for guns, ammo, or other weapons. And it was close by, so why not? Unfortunately, there was nothing but the undead. Wandering off further, I noticed an Enigma bookstore. More knowledge for me? It was honestly overkill with how many textbooks I had. I also raided the kitchen next door for cooking supplies and other food items since I was passing through. As I was going back to my spiffle van, I noticed a truck in the loading bay. I didn't really need the truck, but that building could be interesting. It could be packed with goodies I don't know about. And to my surprise, it was a post office. For those of you that don't know, post offices often have books too. So the more knowledge for me. The adjacent store I investigated was a hardware store. I didn't really need more construction tools, but the fishing line and tackle I found was a great upgrade to my current fishing equipment. I took the floodlight and cement mixer because I thought they looked nice. I leave once it's getting late and pack my stuff into the van before seeing if I could find a safe spot to close my eyes in. It wasn't going to be the furniture store next to me. The alarm went off when I pried open the door. This was a pain since I thought the alarms didn't go off once the power went out. How do they even work without power? It's stupid. Whatever. I just drove off and parked in a small house I covered up, went up to the bedroom and slept through the distant alarm. In the morning I was greeted with the mess that alarm made. I wanted to clean house, but decided to do it somewhere else when I thought it was too big for me to handle.
That's what she said!
Where I stopped, a jet flew over me, so the hordes wandered in my direction. At first I thought it was just RNG Jesus just hating, but I saw it as a way to collect more resources and XP. After adding more stinky bodies to my van, I decided to check out the nearby garages for fishing poles. No luck, but I did find a restricted sign in a box. Now I could have my base like Area 51, and shoot down anyone Naruto running towards it. In addition to that, I cut down a horde with my neat 2x4 axe. Garage after garage after garage. No fishing pole. The other tools and materials were nice though. To add to that, I towed the truck in the road too. Back at the base, I refuel my Jenny, compost my rotten food, place my sign, deposit my loot gains, make a corpse pile, and forgot to resume my recording when I had a restroom break. I'm not mad, I swear. Mad? Me? What? I don't know what you're talking about. No matter, when I finally remembered to record, it's only been one day, and I'm doing some additional gardening in the rain. I figured it would be good to do it while it precipitates so I don't have to run back and forth to water some radishes. After that, I did some moving around of stuff and other small tidy chores around the base. When I was done, a chopper flew over, and I ran out to see if there was any zombies incoming. I'd rather not have any undead break down my door to eat my brains. When I felt it was safe enough, I go ahead and sleep. This time, pill and alcohol free, because I discovered my panic wasn't rising in the living room. The next day was more of the same, moving stuff around. However, I did decide to use one of the corpses for food. My morbid curiosity got the better of me, so I sawed off some undead flesh, cooked it, and froze it for later. A less insane idea I committed to was turning the zombie into fertilizer. A return to Mother Nature, you know? Moving on from flesh crafting, I do some more fishing with the bugs I collected off the decaying corpses. Call me SeaWorld because that day I just caught seafood. Whatever I saw, I caught. Catfish, sunfish, baitfish, subscribe fish. You name it, I got it. Immediately after, I sliced up those beauties into fillets and cooked them. I ate whatever I could and the rest was frozen for later. The rest of the day was spent reading and practicing my tailoring. A sleep followed, and the next day was rinse and repeat. I did make some fish, human meat, and tainted water stew, and delicious. It was just gathering food, cooking, and practicing my tailoring for a while. If you're wondering why, I wanted to max out the tailoring skill to upgrade my clothes. With leather patches, that adds an additional layer of protection. By the end of the day, I achieved my goal and upgraded my SWAT gear and increased the storage capacity of my bags. August 31st. I decided to do something dangerous. I took my Spaz 12, all the shells I could gather, and the patrol car to go out. It was time to grind out my aiming and reloading skill. In the rural open field just north of West Point, where dispersed zombies roaming about, I turned turn on my lights and siren and just watch them gather at the sound. Turns out there was a lot of them out there. No worries. Even after I ran out of shotgun shells, I brought backup weapons to wipe out the horde. Even after I cleaned out the ones chasing me, a big horde formed at the patrol car. I was gonna have to lure them out piecemeal and dispatch justice.
Monster kill.
By the end, Christine had gone through a few weapons, was covered in blood, and recovered her patrol car.
Badass.
I also wanted some more decoration items, so I head down to the gas station area to fuel up, loot a clothing store of its mannequins, and rest in the motel. I also tow the wrecked car back to base. I do some more disposing and sorting, equip some more guns, and bring some more ammo and melee weapons. I take care of my moodles, do some last minute checks, and decide to go out for a loot run. This time on foot to check on those bodies. As I was looking through the corpses, there was an airdrop nearby. I go for it, take the boxes, and continue on my merry way. When darkness blankets the rural fields, I stop at a farmhouse to rest. When I arrive in the suburbs of West Point, I look through the houses for any scraps I may have passed on during my first pass through. Snap, crackle, pop was all I could hear with each swing of my baseball bat. The satisfying squish of those mushy heads imploding was music to my ears. I spotted a boarded up house. I must have missed it, so I go to investigate. Some books, some melee weapons, nothing to get excited about. I decide to take a sedan parked in the driveway and take along another wrecked car back to base. By this point in the series, I was really feeling the game slow down for me. It was the same cycle repeating itself. I was ready for winter, so it was only a waiting game from here. I just did tasks to pass time. One last checkup on myself and what I've achieved so far. I smile, my milestones, the days that passed by, and the bigger challenges ahead of me. What up, my duders and dudettes? Welcome back to the Christine Choate West Point Extravaganza. Sit back and enjoy the video. I would start with some home chores. First up is collecting food supplies, preferably fresh caught food for the experience. I caught a school of fish and immediately get to prepping and cooking them. Moreover, I add fresh vegetables from my garden to start making soups and stews. This will provide me with warm and fulfilling meals along with the cooking experience. In addition to the meal prep, I boil tainted water I collected from my water coolers. Finally, I end the day in my sleeping bag. In the morning, I check my vegetable garden for blooming crops. If you didn't know, there's multiple stages of growth in which they can be harvested. All that matters is that you harvest them at the seed-bearing stage if you want to grow more crops. Otherwise, harvest them at an earlier stage if you really need the food. The more you know. Now I check on my generator's fuel level before I head out in the spiffle van. As my tires tread on the dirt road, I notice the vegetation has taken over. This would severely slow me down, so I will have to take the main roads from now on. I didn't have any immediate needs, so whatever I could gather in town would suffice, including fresh corpses. I didn't find anything in the houses I looted, but I did dismantle the TVs for experience. In one house with a broken door, I walk in and the alarm goes off. I would like to take a moment to say that I'm baffled with how they are still working with the power grid offline. I was not afraid of a large horde gathering, the opposite really. I was more than ready for such an event, so I continue as usual. When darkness arrived, I took shelter in the home I looted and slept. The next day was more of the same, looting houses. However, I did come across a burnt down house which was interesting to look at. Next, I took a taxi car in front of the convenience store with me. While I was nearby, I take the leftover scrap materials I left at the school and deconstruct what remained. When I finished, I was level 6 metalworking and level 8 carpentry, almost a master craftsman. I just need to read more books for experience boosts before I continue my skill grind, so I head back to base. Nothing too exciting when I got home. I just emptied the van of stuff into their proper receptacles, except the corpses. I just dumped those on the driveway to collect the maggots. In the morning, I drank some soup I left out to thaw while I slept.
Delicious.
When I picked through the corpses, I found a gun case on the body. It had multiple pistols, which had me very excited. I didn't know they could spawn in like that. Awesome. The rest of the day was spent sorting through stuff, putting the clothes on the racks, rotten food in the compost bin, and the guns in the armory. I spent the next couple days just tending to the base before I suit up again and head out. This time around, I would go deeper into the more populated side of West Point. I went to the Gigamart again to loot it for food and other stuff I could possibly use. It was a breeze killing the outside roamers and breaking in. After I plundered the shelves of everything, I set up a sleeping bag in the van interior and go to sleep. The next morning, I decided to do something dangerous. I saw a service car in the parking lot and turned on its siren before diving back into the Gigamart. As I waited, I disassembled the Gigamart and reached the max level for carpentry. I was now master of wood.
Stop it. Get some help.
When I go outside, I see massive amounts of undead around the service vehicle. It was time to clean up the parking lot.
That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about. Woo!
In the end, Christine emerged the victor. She set up a fire in the early morning chilly breeze. In that moment, she had a victory warm meal and a smoke. When I continued my drive, I found a generator in the parking lot. This one's a mobile generator, so I would take it just in case. I then stopped by a self-storage lot. I wasn't sure what I could find here, but that just makes the adventure more exciting. I dispatched lurkers inside with no problems. The small clusters were no match for Christine. The storage units themselves had nothing of interest, just miscellaneous items and furniture. As I was heading back to my van, I encountered a couple of undead lurking, easy to pick off. I rushed to the spiff van and pedaled to the metal, zoomed straight back to base. I frantically looked around to make a vaccine. The clock was ticking. It was no use. I didn't have all the recipes unlocked, nor did I have the first aid skill to craft them. It was doomed from the start. Not enough time for any of that. The sickness was already incubating. The symptoms were showing. Nothing I could do but just end it all. No, this was not gonna be Christine's end. She's not going out a coward. If she was gonna die, she was gonna take as many as she can with her. I load up with whatever ammo and weapons I had left, hop in the patrol car, and punch it. I mowed through the streets, reducing any undead to mush with my car. Vehicular manslaughter. As I got closer to the heart of the city, I turned on my siren, and it was lights on, baby. It was time for the final battle. Thanks to everyone that watched the series. If you enjoyed, hit the like button, comment below your favorite part, subscribe, and click the bell icon below for fresh new Dem content. Take care, my dudettes and duders.